please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I'm Charlotte O'Hara, and I'm running for Johnson County Chair, and I always tell people, lead with your faith. I always, at every BOCC meeting, I have my rosary in my hand because this is my shield. I am standing for transparency, for government that is responsible to the people. So I would appreciate your vote in August in the primary and then in November in the general. Thank you.
I imagine most of you know Charlotte, but if you could find a more principled person to be in government, good luck with that. So it's my pleasure to have Charlotte O'Hara here tonight.
Okay. All right. How are we going to win? We're going to lead with our faith. Every BOCC meeting, I have my rosary in my hand. I cannot tell you how powerful this has been. It keeps me grounded. When people are nasty to me, I don't respond in kind. It's like, oh, okay, well, thank you very much, and go on down the road. But we also need to be talking about the Founder's Bible. I don't know if anybody in here have a Founder's Bible? It is fantastic. It is a King James version, and it is packed full of historical founding fathers documents, and it is interspersed with the scriptures, and it's just absolutely amazing. Yes. It's Wall Builders, David Barton. David Barton's group is who publishes it, and it is, I mean, I'm ashamed that mine is not more tattered. I will tell you that my grandfather's Bible, when he died, it was just absolutely tattered, and that's actually my goal. My goal is to have my Bible to be as tattered as my grandfather's, and I have a lot of work ahead of me. So, anyway. Board of County Commissioners. Our votes are usually 5-2. We have 2 people on that board that understand that government is the people, and it is not about the bureaucracy, it's not about staff, but you know, it's tough. I mean, it's tough right now, and not being the chair, I have no influence on the agenda. However, I have figured out some things. They allow me to speak every week at commissioner comments. And during commissioner comments, I just happen to make motions. And last week, I made a motion that our budget retreat, which is our first budget meeting, it's going to be a retreat from the public. That's what the retreat means. It is not videotaped, it is not broadcast, and it is not archived. And they say, well, you know, but the staff and the board members feel so much more comfortable to have this conversation. And I'm going, that's ridiculous. We are responsible to the people. And our budget hearings, our budget meetings, our first budget meeting needs to be open to the public.
Who's paying for it?
Well, that would be us, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we have an 11.96% increase in appraisal. That's the average. So what does this mean? If we don't roll the mill levy back, 11.96%, you guys will have a tax increase. Commercial, industrial did not increase that much. Apartments, 22%. Eye-popping. Just absolutely eye-popping. And so our goal, I know my goal, is to put their feet to the fire, that absolutely we have to roll the mill levy back so that we do not have a tax increase. It's a high hill, and obviously Michael and I cannot do this unless we have your help. So we're gonna be working on that hard. We're going to be pushing on that hard. And the fact of the matter that they do not want to have these retreats in the BOCC room and as a committee of the whole is inexcusable. It's inexcusable. They want to hide from you. That's just the truth. So the other thing that I'm working on is the Kansas City Area Transit Authority. They have found the authority to come over to Kansas side, Johnson County, and use eminent domain. Kansas City Area Transit Authority has found the authority to come over to Kansas and use eminent domain to transfer private property to private developers to build high-rise apartment projects that can be property tax exempt for up to 30 years, and they will not pay sales tax on any construction materials, equipment, or fixtures. Now, Mike Thompson, my hero in the Senate, he is carrying a bill. It's SB 338. Please get a hold of any and all senators and ask them to please support SB 338 because this cuts the legs out from under KCATA. They are prohibited from using the tax exemptions. Yes, it's so beautifully simple. It's just, they can't. And where I am on tax incentives, I think everyone knows that I believe in the free market, that these huge tax incentives, Sunflower Redevelopment LLC, they were just given a $200 million 20-year 100% tax increment finance district out in DeSoto. So we are going to use $160 million of property taxes to clean up Sunflower. That is a federal responsibility. The Army has acknowledged the responsibility, but we are still going to be using $160 million of local tax dollars to clean that up. And it's unbelievable. It's just absolutely unbelievable. We did vote on it, and that was the first TIF district that has been voted on that I know of. And the Board of County Commissioners has veto power over these TIF districts. And naturally it passed 5-2, but at least we got a vote. The other thing is that I want to let you know how much money is being diverted by these tax incentives. IRBs, which industrial revenue bonds, and economic development revenue bonds. In 2017, it diverted $22.8 million from the public coffers. This is just Johnson County. In 2020, it was $43.9 million. 2021, it was $53.2 million. I mean, we are decimating our tax base. And these economic incentives do not work, because if they did, guess what? Your taxes would be going down. Anybody whose taxes have gone down? Anybody's taxes gone down? It's a false narrative. It doesn't work. The bigger you are, the more you get. The $1 billion that they want to shower on this Panasonic battery company that may come out at Sunflower. I mean, what about the rest of us? And you're assuming that this is not going to cost anything in services? This is nuts. It's craziness. It's absolute craziness. But this is what the big boys do. However, I'm going to tell you that we did have a bright spot. Last night in Overland Park, this huge apartment complex in Deer Creek that was going to be showered with tax increment finance tax goodies, it was defeated. It's defeated. Now, will it come back? Developers do not go away easily. They do not. Hey, and I'm from the construction industry, and I've used an IRB back in 2004. I know how all of this works. My industry simply has gotten way too greedy, and we need to roll this back. In Edgerton, those 1 million square foot, they are paying 16 cents a square foot. That's a 2,000 square foot house, $320 a year. That's a deal. That's a deal. I have 2 industrial buildings on Keeler Street in Olathe. I pay over $2 a square foot. These are 40-year-old metal buildings, and I don't even have a paved parking lot. It's a mess. So lots and lots of issues. The mask mandate, finally we did away with the public health order last Thursday. But not to worry, they are still attempting to mask our children in daycare centers. Yes, 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 absolutely. They are masking our babies, and what they're doing is that through KDHE down to our DHE, they are terrorizing these daycare centers, threatening them that they will lose their license. Now, a lot of people would just ignore it. Just say it. Exactly, you would just ignore it. But a lot of these facilities, I have gotten emails, and I got the letter that the Department of Health sent out, and it's terrible. They want them to mask these little kids. There's no public health order, but it's from KDHE down to DHE and down to the daycare centers, and these people are terrorized because of licensures. It's just unbelievable. So transparency. I'm trying to get as much transparency as I can from the Department of Health and Environment, because that is really ground zero for our individual liberties at this point. That and tax incentives, because we would like to keep some of our money in our pockets instead of paying such high property taxes. So do you guys have some questions? I would be glad to answer any questions, and thank you, Sheriff, for being here.
Yeah.
Oh, not a problem, not a problem.
We started a little early.
Yeah, we just started a little late.
For kids to be masked.
Well, you know, there was a lot of parents in schools that allow. I was a homeschooler, I have to tell you. I'm one of those. I really had a grand time homeschooling. I have a background in education, but you do not need a degree in education to be a homeschooler at all. You just reading, writing, arithmetic, just the basics. But no, there's lots of people that they did, and it's just they're intimidated. It's sad. Yeah, it's fear. We have, and in the leadership in Johnson County, from the chairman to the county manager to the upper echelons of departments, they have been hiding in bunkers of fear. That's really what they have been doing. Except for Sheriff Hayden. he has been a light. He and I, oh man, I tell you, if I didn't have Calvin, I was a maskless wonder, and you cannot even believe the heat that I took. But when the sheriff's deputies would come in, when we actually held our meetings in person, and those deputies would come in without a mask, man, what a refreshing sight that was. So, thanks for leading the charge and giving those guys the courage to do the right thing. So, anyway, any other questions? Yeah.
I want to go to the sunflower question that you, or topic that you talked about.
Yeah.
Because thinking about how much are we spending for the tax abatement? It's $160 million.
It's $200 million. 40 million will go back into infrastructure for the projects, and then 160 million will actually go into cleanup. And again, Parsons, Kansas, they had an ammo plant, and it was about the same timeline. I believe it was 1998 when that was also declared as excess federal land. It's cleaned up, and not one penny of local property taxes went into it. It's industrial level, but it's done. They're open for business. So what happened to Johnson County?
So my question would be, what is the justification of spending so much money or giving up so much money? Somebody's saying that we're going to get so much money back to offset that. Is that?
Where has that worked?
Well, I'm being a bit of a skeptic advocate here, so and I don't know enough, so I want you to help educate me on that.
Okay, so this is the premise. You give all of these tax incentives away, and then all of this economic development is going to lower taxes for everyone. And this is, I'll give you an example. Overland Park. Overland Park really wasn't in the tax incentive game until Sprint. Sprint was the first, and then they really weren't too much else into it. And their mill levy in 2005 was 9 mills. 9. Like Olathe is probably 25, 28, something like that. It was 9. Since then, it is now 13.5 mills. It's increased 50%. And this is when all of these tax incentives started to come into place. It doesn't work. It's a false narrative. This is what the Kansas Chamber of Commerce. You go if you were going to make yourself sick, go out to the Kansas Department of Commerce and look at the list of tax incentives that they have. It's unbelievable. It's money for training. It's money for. It's unbelievable. And those are your tax dollars. Remember, this year, for 2021, they diverted $53.2 million, which is approximately $13.5 million for the county. That directly impacts you. You have to make up the difference, and existing small businesses. That's what happens.
Who's to blame for us paying for the cleanup?
The developers.
Who agreed to it, though?
Okay, well.
There's got to be one name
okay.
whoever negotiated that deal with them.
Okay, so John Peterson. In 2005, July of 2005, a contract was signed with the Board of County Commissioners, and it had all these stipulations that this was supposed to be cleaned up. And it had it was very, very specific. And oh, by the way, the Shawnees had a claim against this because it was any federal land that is excess property, it goes back to the Indian Nation that it is within their reservation. The Shawnees had a 1.6 million acre reservation that is like 5 counties deep. Each county is like 307,000 acres, like 5 counties deep west. Well, then in 1854, we decided, well, we didn't want them to have that, and they pared it down to 200,000, et cetera, et cetera. But in our contract that was signed in 2005, we were required, along with the Army and the Department of Justice, to defend against any claims of the Shawnee tribe. We contractually agreed to make sure that the Shawnees had no claim. And then we supported legislation in the U.S. Congress that made the Shawnees claims moot. There you go. And then they go, well, we're all about racial equity and CRT and all this stuff. And then we renegotiated our pre-development agreement with them, and was passed like 3 weeks ago. We didn't have to do that. In fact, Sunflower Redevelopment LLC, they had a signed contract pre-development agreement with us, and they had a pre-development agreement signed with DeSoto at the same time. I said, this is bigamy. This is unbelievable. But, just sweep it under the floor. Yes.
Charlotte, I have a couple of questions.
A couple of the questions that come along is, you talk about free market. And one of the things I'm having a difficulty with, and I'm going to bring this to you in a little while, is those warehouses are down in Edgerton are paying about $25 to $30 an hour. Now I pay a guy that's supposed, a young man or a young woman that's supposed to take a bullet for you, I start them out at $24 an hour. How am I supposed to do that? But let's